Hi, this is Robert Paylor, author of Paralyzed to Powerful, Lessons from a Quadriplegic's Journey, and this is the Sports Business Conversations podcast from ADC Partners.
Hey, this is Dave Almy of ADC Partners, and thanks for swinging by to listen to this latest episode of the Sports Business Conversations podcast. We all have obstacles that we face in life. Sometimes these might seem petty, like, oh my God, the Wi-Fi is so slow today. But oftentimes, these obstacles can be much more substantial. Things like unhappiness in a job, loneliness, addiction, relationship challenges, the list, unfortunately, goes on. These things can impact us to such a degree that we become almost paralyzed by them. It's something that this episode's guest, Robert Paylor, is uniquely qualified to speak to. In 2017, Robert was at the true height of his physical powers. The 6'5" 245-pound college sophomore was competing in the College Rugby National Championship game for the legendary Cal Bears squad. Just moments into the game, an illegal play by an opposing player broke Robert's neck and left him immobile on the ground, unable to feel a thing. And so begins Robert's path to recovery, which he recounts in his just-released book, From Paralyzed to Powerful, Lessons from a Quadriplegic's Journey. From the dark moments that immediately follow his injury to his remarkable path through grief and anger towards purpose and forgiveness, Robert talks about the tools he used to help him thrive today. And who knows, they might help you on your path too. So thanks for listening in on my conversation with Robert Paylor, author of From Paralyzed to Powerful, Lessons from a Quadriplegic's Journey, which is now available on Amazon. I know you'll be glad you did. Robert, talk to me about your athletic experience before you arrived at Cal, right? You grew up in El Dorado Hills, which is the base of the Sierras. So did you play everything under the sun? Did you have a specific area of focus?
Oh my gosh, when I was a kid, sports was everything.
Yeah, everything.
I mean, it was what I dreamt about. It's like what I was getting ready to do when I woke up in the morning. And I grew up playing the big three traditional American sports: football, basketball, baseball. I was always a big guy. I was kind of biggest in my class. I'm 6'5" now, here fully grown. But so I was good at baseball. I was good at basketball, but I was really good at football.
You were knocking the peewees over, weren't you?
Oh, yeah. I loved hitting people.
Yeah.
It's funny. And I write about this in my book. My first year I tried out for football, I actually got cut. I didn't even make the team. Didn't even make it to one practice. And here I was I had number 99 on my back, like X-Men type thing. And
you were ready to go.
Oh yeah. But I just I didn't have that fire in me at first.
Yeah.
And I remember there was this one day in practice where I had this buddy of mine on my team, really close buddy, but I knew he wasn't as good as me. And he got this starting spot over me.
Oh,
and
boy.
I was just in rage. And I remember that switch flipped. And I was like, I'm going to put this guy on his back every single play for the rest of this practice. And I did. I mean, I'm screaming.
Was that a beginning of that understanding of competitiveness in you? That was when you really first felt that burning, oh, this guy's going down.
Yeah, it is. Before that, I was just kind of going through the motions. I'm 10 or 11, 12 years old at the time.
And you're bigger, so you kind of have the size kind of was able to dictate everything.
Totally. But I just didn't use it. I didn't use the gifts I was having.
Yeah.
And my dad was coaching me and he was frustrated. He was really frustrated. He saw these gifts, this potential that I had, and I wasn't using it. And it was that moment that it really clicked for me. And literally, the other coaches are coming up to him. They're like, "Is everything okay at home? How's your relationship with your wife? The family environment?" It was it seemed that bad. But I go back and I'm just payoff's immediate. I became a starter in a day, and then just started translating that to the rest of my life. And that's just kind of like, it really built the foundation that
A
I've
solid
taken with me.
foundation on which other things are based. So when did you first find rugby? Like, when did your eyes first open to that? And what was your first experience playing that sport?
Yeah. So I think the first time I ever even heard about the game, there was the mom of a friend of mine who went over to New Zealand.
Oh, yeah. Well, that'll do it.
That'll do it. And she went over and heard of the famous New Zealand All Blacks.
The All Blacks, yeah.
She wanted to go see a game. And the only thing I knew about it was she came back and there was someone who had lost their mouth guard, and in contact, they bit through their lip. Like
the old extra mouth.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Their teeth literally went through their lip. And I thought, that's crazy. I will never be a part of that game. I'll probably never even watch a game. These guys sound like
lunatics who play that sport.
Exactly. So I just kind of, I'm really like developing mostly in football, and I'm doing really well, kind of best on my team, MVP, captain, and all that good stuff. Really hoping to play in college one day. And then I go over to Jesuit High School in Sacramento, which has the #1 high school rugby program in America.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
10 national championships right now.
Okay, yeah.
Incredible culture. And they're not just winning hardware. Everybody loves playing for this team. That's like 100 players on the squad. Everybody's getting time. Everybody loves it. And like I said, I'm just a measly 6'5". I was also playing basketball all the time. We had guys on the grade above me. One guy was 6'10", another guy 6'8". And they weren't just bodies, like they could play. They wanted to go play D1 and stuff. So I'm thinking I'll probably make the team. But even if I do, I think I'm going to ride the pine. Right. I don't think I can compete with these guys.
So I started looking for other options.
Yeah. I'm kind of shopping around. And all my friends are like, you have to try rugby. It's such a fun sport. We're really great and competitive. And it's a pipeline to go play for Cal, which has the #1 collegiate rugby program in the nation. We just won our 34th national championship on May 3rd versus Life University. So it was kind of enticing. I was thinking, man, I think I'd be pretty good. I like hitting people. We're really successful. And I could go to a school like Cal. And I made that decision.
So first of all, I was wondering how long it was going to take for you to mention that Cal just won the national championship. And it was 4.5 minutes into the conversation.
Did we hit the under?
So I think we hit the under.
Good.
So I think for people who may not be as familiar with rugby as the average bear, playing for Cal is a big deal. I mean, that program exists on a whole other plane of college rugby. I mean, you just alluded to it. With 34 national championships. For those who are a little less familiar with the sport, can you talk a little bit about what it's like playing for a team that is that recognized as being dominant in the sport and being able to do so?
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I mean, gosh, you think of like, who are the dominant sports programs of our time right now? You think a lot of times like Alabama football, you think Duke basketball. If, you're in women's basketball, you think UConn, like you think of these just incredible programs with incredible leaders at the top of the helm, leading their program as the head coach. And I mean, Cal, when you look at its sport individually, kind of blows them out of the water. So now I just said 34 national championships.
I mean, it's outrageous.
That's with the tournament only even having existed for about 50 years.
Right.
So you have decades straight of Cal winning the championship.
Oh, if you look it up online and you get like the grid that shows national championships, it just Cal. Particularly when it first got rolling.
Oh yeah, everywhere. So if you want to be the best rugby player you can be in America, you go to Cal.
And you play for Jack Clark.
That's right. Yeah, who just notched out his 30th national championship in his coaching career. So rugby's really enticing, but the university is wonderful, right? #1 public university in the world. I wanted to go get a business degree. Haas School of Business has a great reputation, something that I really wanted to get into. So it just made so much sense. It was a dream for me. So when I got that call, and I still have the voicemail on my phone.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. I'll go back to it. It's from Coach Vigoni, who's like our operations director. And he gave me that call. I went out and I went to their camp, which is really the main way that they recruit and find talent. And I had a great camp and they said, hey, we're really interested and we want to talk to you about coming to the University of California. And gosh, that was the best phone call ever.
The greatest team at one of the greatest universities taps you on the shoulder and says, we want you to come here. I'm getting prickles on the top of my skull just listening to you say it now. I mean, what was that experience like for you? Did you just is it like a speechless moment? Did your heart race kind of thing? And this is the dream come true?
Dream come true. Yeah, that's what I was going to go to. I mean, when you're an athlete, you dream, you think about these moments your whole life. And when, it was a lofty goal. I knew it wouldn't be easy going to play for Cal. They are at no shortage of talent.
Right.
Everybody on that team was captain. They were MVP. They're all Americans in high school. So I knew that it was a dream come true, but I also knew it was going to be a challenge. This was not something where I was just going to be able to walk into this program and start and really compete at a high level. I was going to have to develop a lot more as a player, but I knew that if I were to go to another school, I would just regret it for my entire life. I had to go all in.
Right. So you were on a team that won the national championship in 2016 as a freshman.
That's right.
And you made it back to the championship game the following years. How are you feeling going into that game?
Elated.
Yeah.
So my freshman year, I wasn't on the traveling roster that won that national championship, which is super common. It is exceedingly rare for a freshman to be starting on the rugby team, especially at my position, which is called lock.
Mm-hmm.
So the lock position, kind of like a tight end in football, similar body type, tall, pretty big, but you also got to be lean because you got to be able to move that field for 80 minutes straight.
Yeah, so, it is not a sport for people with lack of cardio.
No. No. I mean, it's amazing. And it's not rolling substitutions like in, football or hockey or basketball. Once you're out, you're gone. If you're a starter, you're most likely going to play the entire game unless you just really tucker out or make some mistakes. So I really had to push it. And I had to go from that, 5 seconds on, 30 seconds off type conditioning in football to where it's just that constant rolling and
always moving
and really having to develop in size as well. I mean, this you're playing with the big boys and the contact is more intense. It's a much faster game. My freshman year, I developed into that, but then my sophomore year, that lock position had kind of opened up for the starting spot. And we had some really competitive guys and some guys who were older than me who were going for this position as well. And I put in a lot of extra effort. After every practice, I was going over to the gym, hitting the weights, doing more cardio, really building myself to where I eventually earned that starting spot as a sophomore. So very difficult to earn a freshman starting spot. Sophomore, very rare as well. So again, dreams are coming alive for me to compete for this national championship. We had a really successful season that year, and we were going up to play Arkansas State, which we felt really confident.
You were confident about what was going to happen there.
Yeah, I don't think they've ever won a national championship before. And at this time, this was going for our 31st national championship. So been there, done that kind of feeling. We felt really good going into the game.
So what do you remember, if anything, about the play where you were injured?
I remember everything.
That's
my goodness. I will remember that moment better than any moment in my life, to be honest.
So explain the circumstances of what was happening.
Yeah. So we go into this match really early on, like a minute and a half. They commit a penalty. So we do what's called kicking it into touch.
Yep.
We kick the ball out of bounds, and where the ball goes out of bounds, we do like an inbounds called a line out, where we lift guys up in the air like cheerleaders. And then we start going for it. Now we're about 7 meters out for this line out. Very obvious mauling situation, which is where the bigger guys, we group up in one unit and then we start pushing to advance the ball. And the defense's job is come straight in. They try to stop us from moving forward. So very much a boiler room.
Yeah.
Big guys thrive in this environment. I was a big guy, 6'5", 245 pounds.
You enjoy contact.
I crave it. I seek it. And I'm thinking, I'm going to plow this thing in. We're going to put an early try on this team. I'm going to get my shoulder tapped tomorrow in film saying, nice job, Paylor, driving that ball in. So I'm kind of just drooling here thinking, let's go, Rob. You got to drive this thing in. And then it's as I'm doing that the opposing players, they start making illegal moves. Referee's not calling it. So 3 players entering from the side of the maul. Those are all infractions. Can't do that, but the ref doesn't call it. And then their number 8 comes in and he binds my head in a headlock. So my chin is kind of pinned down to my chest.
From behind you?
From my side.
From your side.
From my side, which is illegal. Can't do that. But the arm lock around the neck, very illegal. It's an automatic yellow or red card. And in fact, it was that year that World Rugby, which is the sport's global governing body, increased emphasis on this type of play, saying that if you so much as make contact, just touch the head or neck, It's an automatic yellow card, which is a 10-minute suspension.
Yep.
If there's any sort of danger behind it, then it's an automatic red card. You're gone from the game, and you're even reviewed for further suspension.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, the referee's not calling it. And I think as an athlete, there's really not a lot you can do in those kinds of situations. There's really only two probably. And one is you stand up and you throw your arms out to the side.
And go, what the hell?
Saying, yeah. Hey, ref, what's going on? You going to call this? And then number two, you can just keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward.
That was my choice.
Yeah.
So I keep my shoulder level down, kind of back flat, pointed forward. And as I'm doing that, another player chops me down by my legs. Another penalty.
So you drop.
So I'm falling. This guy is torquing down on my neck. I cannot get my head up. And it's common that these malls collapse. So I'm just kind of, okay, brace for impact, gonna hit the ground, gonna keep moving forward. I hit the ground. I feel a snap, god awful crunch in my neck, and then just poof.
Everything's out.
Gone. My mind, completely clear and conscious. I did not lose consciousness for 1 second, but it's just intense buzzing, pins and needles everywhere on my body. I can't move anything. I can't feel anything. My life just changed.
And you're crystalline aware of everything that's happening mentally in this moment.
100% aware. And I'll be like, immediately I assume the worst.
So you did realize this was something different. I mean, you're playing contact sports throughout your childhood. You've clearly been injured in the past. I mean, so you had a immediate awareness that this was not your typical injury.
No, I'd broken a lot of bones before in competition. And in that adrenaline rush, there was no pain that ever came with it. It was almost just like this numbing, blunt force impact to the bone. That was my wrist, my hands, things like that. I felt that very familiar feeling in my neck.
Yeah.
That was immediate, like, oh boy, that's not good.
That's not where you want that to happen.
No. And, first I just kind of tried to instinctually get up because that's what you do in rugby. You go down to the ground and you just keep moving.
Right.
And after my instincts didn't really get me up, then within a half second, I'm taking a mental inventory and I'm kind of laying like prone on my chest. My head is kind of tilted down to the side. My forehead went all the way down to my chest at one point. My face was pressed against my sternum. Mm-hmm. And then as the pile moved, I was able to just kind of like, just naturally, I couldn't move, but my body just sort of felt to where I no longer had my face on my chest. Mm-hmm. And so I can see the left side of my body. And I'm like, okay, wiggle your toes. Come on, something. I look at my left hand, which is just sitting next to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, lift up your arm, like close it into a fist, wiggle a finger. Nothing's happening. Keep in mind, the referee didn't stop play. So I'm sitting here screaming. I can't move. I can't feel anything. F word here, F word there. I'm just like absolutely terrified because they're playing like 3 meters away from me.
Yeah.
I mean, multiple phases of play came near me. Yeah. If someone would have landed on me in that moment, I certainly would have had a more severe injury. I might not even be here today.
Yeah.
So we ended up scoring on them, and that's what even stopped play. But all my thoughts are running wild. And I'm thinking, am I ever going to be able to go back to school, graduate, have a family, have a career?
All this is flipping through your mind as you're laying on the field just moments after your injury.
Everything.
Your mind is almost in overdrive.
Oh, yeah. I thought about the story of a Rutgers football player named Eric LeGrand.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, I had seen Eric's story while I was growing up. He was a special teams player, kickoff play, missed time to hit kind of thing, and total fluke accident, but paralyzed from about the neck down. Mm-hmm. And he couldn't even breathe on his own at one point. I mean, Eric has the heart and spirit of an absolute warrior and such a good attitude, but he still deals with a lot of paralysis. And I was thinking, that's going to be me. And I might not even progress as well as he had. I really just saw myself looking outside a window for the rest of my life. My mom's going to spoon feed me.
Yeah.
One day she's going to die. And then I'm just going to like have a caregiver who I barely know, just kind of keep me alive. This is going to be the rest of my life.
And this is in the 2 minutes that followed the initial injury. That's how quickly your mind raced to try to look at the path from the moment where you went, all right, try to wiggle my fingers to, okay, here's my life for the rest. I mean, obviously then a number of things happen. Mm-hmm. You're obviously carted off the field. You go to hospital. Fortunately, the San Francisco Bay Area's got great medical care in it, so you're able to get to some great spots. But there has to come this moment where you're confronted with a doctor who explains to you your situation.
Mm-hmm.
Is it possible to explain that moment when you're told that you're looking at quadriplegia?
Yeah, it was hard. And what happened was we go to the hospital. I'm kind of holding out some glimmer of hope. I'm asking people, am I going to walk? And they say, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that means they might say yes.
Yeah.
And I do all my medical imaging. My doctor comes in the room, bad look on his face, very matter of fact. He says, Robert, you will never walk again. You will never move your hands. You'll be lucky if one day you can do something like pick up a piece of pizza and bring it to your face. And if you survive. He recommended I go into a spinal fusion surgery, essentially permanently casting my cervical spine at the area at which it had been broken. He said it's my best chance at stability, but I might not wake up from the surgery. It's high risk. My body was already and just freaking out under this trauma. I had a fever of 103 degrees. I spiked up to 105 when I was in the MRI machine. And I mean, you just are a little bit off in one of these surgeries and things get bad really quick. And he told me before I went into this surgery and made a decision, he said I had 1 hour to make a choice, that I could make some phone calls. My faith is incredibly important to me. And in this moment, I needed God. So I called my spiritual director. I told him what's going on, asked for his prayers. He gives me this piece of advice that just changed my outlook. It gave me so much power in a powerless situation. And he said, throughout this journey, there's going to be a lot of things you can't control, but the one thing you'll have control over is your mindset. So your positivity, your ambition, your willingness to wake up every day and fight this is up to you. This injury cannot take that away from you. And I think that's just a lesson for all of us, right? That when we have that mountain of a task in front of us, when we just don't know where to go, we have to just zoom in on what's going on at this current moment. What is the next most important thing right now for me to take on? Not look at that mountain in front of us, but just look at our own 2 feet, control your mindset, keep moving forward. That really helped me when I heard that news, to where I was like, you don't know how hard I'm willing to work. And I'm going to give everything I have to get everything I can get out of this recovery. I was just controlling my mindset.
There's this moment, I guess, where it goes when so much is out of your control, to focus in on those things that you can control. And I'm wondering too, like, your faith is very important to you. And I think obviously some of it stems from that, but also a legacy of competitiveness as an athlete. Like, the first thing you talked about was kind of entering into the football practice, kind of like la-di-da, and then having to shift your mindset. So this is it feels almost like training for the moment when something like this happened to you. You had tools, faith, and experience at your disposal that you were able to really lean on at that time.
That's exactly it. It's the second chapter of my book. I talk about building a foundation. I am confident that I would not have been able to respond positively in that situation when I got that news from the doctor if I didn't have that strong foundation already built for me in my life. You know, that's that sense of faith, really believing that there's a plan for me. The plan is good. And then that discipline, that toughness. I mean, winning those national championships, it doesn't just happen.
Right.
You earn it every year. And when we were down late in the game, we didn't think like, all right, pack up your toys, boys. We're going home.
We're done. No,
we're working harder. We're giving everything I have. As the challenge increases, so does our effort. So does our resolve. And it was that same kind of mentality. This is the biggest challenge I've faced in my entire life, but I'm going to take it on with this same mindset and the only way I know how, which is to never give up.
I want to talk to you about 2 different outcomes from understanding your new situation in life, right? There's has to be, I'm assuming, a grief process that where you go through. So I'd like you to talk about, if you can, what that was like for you as you came to terms with your injury. And then I also want to talk to you a little about forgiveness too, because as we've talked about in the past, you never heard from the opposing team or the player who caused the injury, which I think was a source of real anger for you at first. So let's start with the concept of grief and moving through towards acceptance for you as you came to terms with the injury.
Yeah, that was hard. I mean, I really don't think I properly grieved this injury until about a year later, which I think was good because I was very busy after my injury. I mean, I had pneumonia. Sure. I couldn't swallow. I had to fight for my life. And I was sleeping maybe an hour or 2 hours a day. I mean, it was unbelievable what I was going through in the beginning there. And then, I'm doing my rehab. I was so busy all the time that I just didn't even have the time to sit back and grieve.
I mean, there's survival and then there's recovery. I mean, I'm assuming those are keeping you busy for sure.
Yeah. And then I go over to Cal a year later to finish my degree. And I had gained a lot back and I could live independently. I didn't need to have a caregiver, so I didn't want one. And I was just kind of by myself. I couldn't live with my buddies because in Berkeley, it's a lot of older houses, a lot of stairs. Yeah. So I was with a couple people they were great guys, but we were more friends out of like convenience than connection. And I had those moments where I remember my coaches and my teammates helped me pack up all my stuff and get settled in. And I was like, all right, I'll see you later. And then it kind of hit me. I'm like, whoa, I'm by myself now. Yeah. And I didn't have all those distractions all the time. And there was a lot of times when I was late at night on my phone. And I remember I had like this 3-second video clip on my phone of the moment my injury happened. And I would just loop it for hours watching this thing. I just wonder, how is this even possible? It's really difficult to explain how hard it is to wrap your head around an injury like this, where you're a D1 athlete, your body and your physicality is your sense of pride and purpose, to where, I mean, I like have a hard time just going to the bathroom and getting dressed in the morning and things like that.
You're relearning everything.
Everything. And gosh, I needed to process what had happened. Yeah. And, I think it's good that I had some time before that happened, or I think it really would have crushed me. Luckily, I had so much support in that time. And it wasn't like I was always sitting in that state of grief, that I could get up, I could go to my classes, go to my workouts, be with my friends and keep moving forward through this injury. But that was not an easy thing for me to go through. And I'll be honest, it probably took me about a year and a half before I could really be like, you know what, this happened and I'm grateful for what it gave me, not held back by what I've lost. So that's that one mental challenge. But beyond that was forgiveness.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
That was the most difficult mental challenge I think I went through.
I think even like stages of grief, right? Anger's a part of it.
Yeah.
And clearly this was I would assume would be a focus of that anger.
Huge. I mean, I really didn't know how I had gotten injured when it first happened. I mean, it was all very quick.
Sure.
I couldn't have told you like, hey, this is exactly everything that happened. And there's this pressure on my neck. I mean, there's a lot of contact points going on in a mall. And the whole thing unfolded in maybe like 5 seconds. And the camera angle from the live stream on NBC Sports wasn't really that great from the press box. You couldn't see what was going on. But then it was a day later that we got this footage from people in the end zone and the try line, that what happened to me was clearly a bind around my neck, flagrant illegal penalty driven all the way down to the ground. And my coaches didn't show me the video, but I heard about it and they wanted to let me know because I needed to know what had happened. And
so they hesitated showing it to you? You had to like request it from them, or?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't see it till months after my injury. I actually see it happen, but they did show my parents and let me know that what happened was illegal, that this wasn't a fluke, that I was dragged down by my head.
Yeah.
And I was filled with a rage like I can't even describe, because at that time I couldn't even breathe on my own. I couldn't swallow anything. We put a tube up my nose and into my stomach. It took 3 days to get in there. Yeah. I lost 60 pounds in a month. So 2 pounds a day. My body is shedding away from me. I can't go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
I can't roll myself over in bed. I can't even itch my nose or wipe my own tears as I'm crying at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And all of this that I'm going through is not because I was doing something stupid.
Right.
I didn't get drunk and start driving a car. I didn't, go dive into a kiddie pool or something like that.
No, you were not engaging in Dave Almy level stupidity.
I mean, I'm competing for a national championship and someone illegally made a move and hasn't said he's sorry. So that's just laying out the rage that I felt in that moment. And a lot of it came back to faith in that moment, where I was taught to always forgive others. Doesn't matter what I feel. Doesn't matter how bad it was. Forgiveness is always the answer. And I was kind of like, okay, God, if you say so.
Boy, here's the test.
Yeah. It was very much felt like a test. And I decided I will say that I forgive this person, whether I really feel it or not.
So you begin the process that way, you vocalize it, make it out loud and a real thing.
Totally fake it till you make it kind of thing. Like, not sugarcoating at all. I was faking it till I made it.
I forgive you.
Exactly. And you know what? I think there's so much truth to it. I don't think that forgiveness is just a feeling, that feeling of peace that comes when you finally moved on. I think it's a decision. I think they really go hand in hand. And I describe it as like a fire analogy, that when we are wrong, there's someone who comes over and they light this wood pile on fire and it's raging, it's roaring, and they get the heck out of there. And you are here like to tend to this fire. And if you keep saying hateful things and just kind of seething in that animosity, you're just throwing wood on that fire. It's raging, it's burning you. But if you choose to not give words to that hatred, you kind of let that fire just burn itself out.
And it just like spends all its energy.
Yeah, time can start running its course. And I found that forgiveness its power really isn't so much in removing guilt from someone who did wrong. It's about removing those negative attachments from the person who was wronged. So I think there's very few generalities in life that just always applies to every situation. But I can confidently say that forgiveness is just always the answer.
Yeah, it's kind of the Stoics' approach to how you're approaching your place in the world and what those things that happen to you end up meaning to you. I mean, it's a remarkable position to be able to take and a great lesson for people. As I talked about, Solly Fulp is a friend of both of ours. And he's actually also been a guest on this show. So I'll have to actually fuse the two of them together at some point. And I spoke to him before we recorded, and he shared a story about being in your hospital room just a couple days after you were injured. He didn't know you particularly well at that time. He was, I think a nephew of his was playing on the team or something like that. And he came to your room, and you apparently looked at him when your situation was still pretty dicey. I mean, I think doctors were clearing fluid from your lungs every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And in the middle of this, your prognosis being uncertain, you apparently told him like, oh, hey, Solly, nice to meet you. I'm going to be finishing my Cal degree, and then I'm going to be enrolling in your sports business class at the Haas School of Business.
Yeah.
And I guess he was kind of taken aback by the whole thing, kind of surprised by it. Like, I mean, this guy doesn't know if he's going to be alive in a couple of days. Do you recall the moment when you said that to him and what your mindset was? Had you already started entering into this progression part?
Yeah, I did. You know, I do remember that moment. And it's so funny to hear him say it now. Because he went back to his wife that night. And he told me this later. He said, I don't even know if Robert's going to survive. And here he is telling me that he's going to get into the Haas School of Business, which ain't easy. And then he's going to take my class. And it was so important for me to have goals like that, have a vision, have something to look forward to. I think that's something that's so important for all of us to think about. What do we want our life to look like? What are we actually working for? And to have like a hunger, have an appetite about that. I was thinking my vision, that was set for me by my doctor on day one is, hey, Robert, you'll be lucky if you can pick up a piece of pizza. That wasn't going to do it for me. Right. Going over to Mountain Mike's.
Picking up the pizza was not the motivator.
No, I am not that much of a pepperoni fan. Those coupons just go in and out of my mailbox. Right. No, I mean, that's not what's going to get you up out of bed in the morning. That's not what's going to motivate you to do something like battle against quadriplegia or build a business, motivate a team, provide for your family. No, I mean, it needs to be something that you want as much as a quadriplegic wants to walk.
Yeah.
And that was such a big part of my goal, that I didn't want to just push for these physical outcomes. I didn't want my life to be on hold anymore. And I wanted goals like that, to get into the Haas School of Business, to take awesome classes like Professor Fulp's class. And that really kept me going when I was in those tough moments. And you're right. I mean, it was almost constant that people were coming into my room, clearing fluid out of my lungs, turning me over, checking my vital signs. I mean, I craved just to get like 20 minutes to doze off.
Yeah.
And it all came down to like, control your mindset and what are you working for? When you have that kind of appetite to achieve a goal like that, choosing whether to get up and work or not isn't even a decision anymore. It's just what you have to do. So I think like that vision component was so key to what I went through. I think everybody needs to spend more time on that.
You do graduate from Cal. You do get into the Haas School of Business. You do end up taking I can't say Professor Fulp, Solly's class. And it was also, he encouraged you to tell your story to the class, which became one of your first opportunities to speak in a public setting.
Yeah.
So how did you prepare for that first opportunity? And what was your reaction, how people responded to you? I mean, we can all understand what their reaction is, but I'm wondering what your reaction and feelings were watching them react.
I didn't know it at the time, but my life changed a lot on that day.
Yeah.
And I remember when I got back to Cal, Solly had helped me a lot with putting together my application to get into the business school. So I had not even been accepted into the program before my injury. This was something that happened while I was doing my rehab in Denver. And I show up, it's like first week, and I'm like, let's go, grab a coffee, Solly. And we go over to the courtyard in the Haas School of Business. I remember like the table. I remember everything about it. And he's like, this is so good to have you here, Robert. I really want you to speak to my class because you have a very visible challenge. People look at you and they can just see a guy who goes through a lot. I know we can't see my full body here, but I'm in a wheelchair and you can just see that I deal with a lot of adversity every day. But for most people, you can't see what they're going through. They're very invisible challenges, but these tools that have helped me in overcoming this very physical challenge, I think can help everybody overcome what paralyzes them mentally or emotionally. So he asked me if I'd come in and give like a 20-minute talk to his class, which was much longer than anything I had done to that point.
Right. Okay. 20 minutes is a long time.
Yeah. I mean, I'll rally the boys for like 30 seconds at halftime or, something like that, but nothing like this. And
were you hesitant at all? Did you see the opportunity? Were you excited to do it? Or you're like, okay.
I was excited, but I was a little nervous too. I mean, it's also not easy for me to go back to that moment, and describe it in great detail. It's a very emotional thing that I went through, but I wanted to make sure that I did this right because in sharing this story and seeing the impact it was making on others already to that point, I was really given a great sense of meaning in my life. So I go over to who other than Coach Clark, who's a fantastic, of course, rugby coach, but culture consultant, high performing teams guy, just incredible speaker, cares so much about my journey and my success. And we sit down and we start going through these stories in my journey and then the takeaways, those tools that people can use to overcome what's challenging them. And we came up with this initial script. So I go over to Solly's class. Coach Clark gave me an intro, best intro I've had in my entire life. Just amazing. Yeah. And I start reading this thing. And at the time it's my first speech. And I'm like, I don't know, 21 years old, 22. And I got like the script on my lap, so I'm kind of like reading down and looking up.
You don't know what you don't know at that point.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. And, but getting like exceedingly more comfortable with it as I'm seeing the audience react. And, they're laughing at all the right times. I hit like these really intense moments. Like I talk about the moment of my injury, like you could hear a pin drop, like that saying, like at the top of its glory. I was like, wow, this is amazing. Yeah. People are crying at the end, standing ovation, coming up to me afterwards, confiding in me what they're going through. I go back to my dorm room after that, and I'm like, this is it.
You found it.
This is it. Like this is the gift that this injury gave me, because when I couldn't play rugby anymore, I lost my purpose in my life. My purpose was in being an athlete. And I've always been an optimistic guy, but I knew I was never going to play rugby again. It just wasn't in the cards. But it was through sharing the story to help someone overcome what's challenging them that purpose was not just replaced. I mean, it was heightened. It was heightened the ability of an impact that I could make on others' lives. To where, honestly, David, I mean, this might sound insane, but I wouldn't even trade in what happened to me. I would not wish this away, because I would be wishing away an ability to make a positive impact on someone's life in a way that I wouldn't have had if I didn't break my neck. So it has not been an easy journey, but it got me here today.
It's a remarkable thing to be sitting here listening to you say something akin to, this is the gift the injury gave me. And I'm assuming that there's going to be people listening to this who hear that and go, that's such a shocking statement, right? The gift of the injury but you saw firsthand and experienced firsthand. It was up until that point, it's probably like, well, this is what the injury took from me.
Yeah.
And now it became, oh my God, this is what it's giving to me.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
having that, that's about as big a pivot as you can make.
It's huge. I mean, it's amazing how much this injury took away from me, for sure. And like a huge variety of things too that I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
And if I were to like list them all out, the things that this injury gave me, it wouldn't be much. I'm really struggling to think in my mind more than just this one thing
Mm-hmm.
to help others overcome what challenges them. But I wouldn't wish it away. And there's interactions I've had with people who are battling stage 4 cancer, or they have ALS, or they battle suicidal ideations, or they just lost a loved one, a son or a daughter. And they're confiding in me how through my perseverance and positivity through it all, I'm helping them overcome that. And these aren't just like, texts here and there too. Like it's like face-to-face interactions with a lot of these folks as well. I'm just like, do I want to walk again? Hell yeah. I work at that every single day and I believe it's going to happen. But do I wish that this never happened to me? Absolutely not. I'd be wishing away an ability to impact folks like that. And it's so true. Like you just have one of those conversations and you start to realize, wow, there is so much power that's within this.
From that initial speech you did at, still going to choke on this, Professor Fult's class, you refined your message quite a bit. And you went on to deliver keynotes for companies like Intel and Samsung and Visa and Meta and a bunch of others. At what point did you start to think this needs to be written? Like this needs to be a book. How did that begin for you?
Yeah. I've been working on this book for a while. So after I did a couple internships with Intel over in the Sacramento area, Folsom, where I live. They got a big campus there. Mm-hmm. And I was an operations intern. They were having some operational difficulties at the time and asked if I would come in and speak to their entire North and South American operations group. So when you're like intern, bottom of the totem pole, that's intimidating to go into an environment like that. I mean, I was like,
you want me to speak to everybody?
Everybody. And I was thinking like, oh boy, I was nervous about this one. It's one thing to speak to like 40 college students and it's another, you're talking to like senior vice presidents and stuff like that. People where it's like, no, you need to be giving me advice. And this one was like 45 minute speech. So it was really getting in there, but it was the same reaction. It's like laughing, crying, standing ovation. They're like, Robert, you were doing a great job on our supply chain, but you should really think about this as a career. And that planted that seed.
Your talents are wasted on supply chain.
So I made that decision. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go all in. And it was in a great year, 2020, COVID hits.
Yeah, wonderful.
Oh my gosh. I'm like, this is the worst time to launch a public speaking career ever. Right. But it opened up some time. Yeah. Or write a book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and let's talk about the book. So the book is Paralyzed to Powerful.
That's right.
Lessons from a Quadriplegic's Journey. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering, when writing the book, which of the parts came easiest? Where did you flow in the writing of it? And then what were some of the parts that you really had to, boy, this is a challenge to get through, but we're going to get there, like in the creation process?
So much of it was honestly easy because, it's like, it's my life. Yeah. It's what I've lived. It's these principles that I hold so close to my heart and really want to share with others. The most difficult ones that I wrote was the one on forgiveness, because I needed to appropriately express that rage that I had internally, but it was not, at no point do I want this to be like a hit piece on the guy.
Yeah. No, it's a delicate balance.
Yeah, but I wanted to describe what I was going through and how significant it was for me to overcome that, but I didn't want to have it like as some act of revenge against him. I really do forgive him. I really do wish him well. And then the other one was a chapter on USA Rugby's investigation of my injury. After what happened, they actually came out with a report and tried to blame it on me, saying that my head was below my shoulder level, completely negating the fact that I was torqued into that position. Yep. That was another really difficult chapter for me to write because I forgive those people as well, but needed to point out that for whatever reason, national governing bodies don't always do the right thing.
Right.
And in moments like that, we have to take a stand. We have to stand up for our values. Those were some really difficult chapters for me to write, but really important. And because there's a lot of lessons in there for us as leaders and as individuals and forgiveness. But I'm happy with the way that it went. And in this whole thing, I didn't want it just to be about me too. I wanted it to really be about those takeaways. And as I've started to get comments here from people reading the book, I think that's what I've been most pleased to see is they said, I came into here just expecting to learn more about Robert's journey, but I really learned more about myself. And that just puts such a huge smile on my face.
Well, and that is also part of the book too. It's not that it does include your story, but it also has elements that require you to reflect on your own personal experience. You help guide people towards examining their own challenges, their own paralyses. So it does read as something a bit more than just a narrative per se. And I'm assuming that was intentional just from how the book was structured.
Very much so. Yeah, striking that balance between sharing the story, which I think is very powerful, but those takeaways really clearly, because we all have something that paralyzes us, right? I mean, think grief, anxiety, fear of failure. There's a litany of things that can hold us back on that mental, emotional perspective. I really want people to spend time thinking about what paralyzes them. And then each chapter of the book is a tool that's helped me in my journey, all while guiding the story along pretty chronologically. So I really wanted those personal takeaways to come through.
So one of the things you write is that, I'm quoting you here. It says, let me see if I can actually read it. While paralysis may rob us of our abilities, it all holds the key to our liberation. It's only when we confront our innermost hardships that we begin to release their grip on our lives and forge a path towards empowerment. Now, this was a hard-won lesson for you.
Yeah.
And it's a really powerful statement. And I'm wondering if you have examples of people, and I think you've touched upon a few of them as we've been talking, of others that have heard that message about confronting their own limitations that have also awakened that back in you. Like people that have heard you speak or have read the book that have heard that you take away and going, oh my God, that's why I do this.
Yeah. I think number one, just asking that question, what paralyzes you, is so important. I don't think we spend a lot of time thinking about that. I think we ought to have that mental inventory of thinking of what's really holding us back. Because like you said throughout that quote, I mean, we really have to go deep and identify those things that hold us back most to be free from our lives. It's not something that can be ignored if we want to perform our best. And, one example that just like immediately comes to mind was a person who I met at a speech who had recently gone through a divorce. And, of course, incredibly emotional, difficult time in this woman's life, and was just telling me like how held back she was by this hatred she had in her heart, by how much her life was changing around her, just everything she knew and could hold as just like something that she could take for granted was really kind of crumbling away. And that this ability to persevere, this perspective and journey in forgiveness was really already helping her see things so differently and start to see that path toward empowerment that she can achieve in her life, knowing that it's going to be a journey. Because I say in this book too, this is not a quick fix. And I can't just share a few words and make challenges go away.
There are no magic phrases.
No, there isn't. No, it's a daily decision that we make multiple times a day to keep persevering forward. But I was so happy to see how this story and this message has helped lay that path out for her. So that's one example of just the many ways that I think this has impact, because we all have something that challenges us. It's just also individual. But I really tried to make it to where you can insert what you're going through into that book.
If you can, talk a little bit about the book and your experience. I think you even say this at one point. It's like you want this to be more than just inspirational.
Yeah.
Right. And I've heard that from other people that I've had an opportunity to talk with, other para athletes who've had experiences like, say, working out at the gym and having people approach them and say, feeling compelled to say something like, oh my God, you're so inspired. I'm so inspired by you. And that kind of being like I'm really just a person in here working out. Right. I understand that. But with that in mind, being more than inspirational, at the end of the day, what do you want people to take away when they've had a chance to read this book? What's the outcome that you want for people?
Yeah, I want them to use it. Yeah. I've heard a lot of stories like that where people with, spinal cord injury or maybe like a very visible mobility impairment will just kind of be going through their life. Someone will come up to them and say like, you are so inspirational. And it rubs them the wrong way. They don't love it. They're like you said, I'm just trying to live my life here.
Just trying to do my thing.
Yeah, just treat me like anyone. I'll be honest, I love it.
Okay, yeah.
I eat it up. I don't know. I think I have a huge ego or something. I mean, no, it's like, I don't want people to ignore what I've gone through. I think like it's the greatest source of my strength and power that I have in my life. Just my ability to overcome this. Of course, my body is so much weaker now, but it's through that I've really had to strengthen my mind and share inspiration with others. So if I never heard anybody tell me that I've inspired them, everything I would go through in my life would just be more difficult. Like every second of my life is harder now, but it's being able to know that this is inspiring others, that gift really comes through. So personal thing, I don't recommend you go up to everybody and tell them how inspirational they are.
This is not a green light to go up to just and say who inspires them.
But if you see
Robert Paylor.
If you see me, go for it. I love it. But beyond that, I want to see like tangible differences in someone's life. That's where the proof really shows that this made an impact on someone. There needs to be measurable things that we can track of the way that we're living our lives differently because of inspiration like this. So I don't want somebody to read this book and say, Robert's awesome. I want them to read this book and say, like, I learned this. This is what I'm going to change. These are the tools I'm going to start using in my life and share it with my family, share it with my friends, my coworkers, and my team to just make a more positive impact on the world. It's that ripple effect that I really want to see.
I'm with Robert Paylor. He is the author of Paralyzed to Powerful, Lessons from a Quadriplegic's Journey. Robert, thank you very much for sharing everything in today. I'm not going to say it was inspirational because clearly we don't want to necessarily touch that third rail.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's such an important and compelling conversation to hear from you. And so I appreciate that. But before I let you go, you just brought up the ability to sharpen your mind. And so we're going to put that to the test in the lightning round.
Let's do it.
Okay. You're leaning in, but you don't know what's about to happen. So here we go. 4 quick questions for you, Robert Paylor. First things that come to your mind in the lightning round. 1, this is a softball. Cal just won their first, like we talked about, first Rugby National Championship since 2017, beating Life University. Anything you want to shout out to the fellas?
Oh my gosh. Like, way to keep this legendary program going. It is not easy, but you're making such an impact on us players who played before you and those players who are coming after. So much pride for that team.
Very good. All right. Rugby, like soccer, is famous for both team and fan chants and songs. Do you have a favorite? And is it repeatable on a family-friendly podcast?
No, our USA chants are so bad. Like, the only thing we know is USA, USA. Yeah. So you got to hop over the pond for stuff like that. I love England sings Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. Oh. I think it's just so cool. We're talking like traditions that are spanning just hundreds of years. I think that's a really cool aspect about the sport.
Our mutual friend Sally Fulp wrestled in college and is semi-famous for his green singlet and tights. What famous fantasy character did he look like, and why is it Peter Pan?
All he needs is the hat. It would just be undeniable.
Right? I mean, it would be just like he just emerged from the forest kind of thing.
Exactly. I haven't seen that picture. We need to get this out there.
We'll have to get that from him. All right. So last one. You're a competitive guy, as we've established, and I'm pretty sure you've got a definitive answer to this question. What's the top speed you've hit in the chair?
Oh, man. So these hills in Berkeley are pretty mean, they're pretty mean. And of course, when I'm going uphill, that's a different story. But going down, got my gloves on. Eesh.
Do you have like when the speed trap signs? Do you ever like click onto those and like say, "Oh boy"?
Yeah, see, it just says slow down. Yeah, no. I wouldn't be shocked if I've hit like 15 miles an hour, maybe. We'll see.
Well, it's pretty racy there, Mr. Paylor.
We'll get that speed gun out there and test it out.
Robert Paylor, author of Paralyzed to Powerful, Lessons from a Quadriplegic's Journey. Really appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much, David. This was so much fun.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the One-on-One Sports Business Conversations podcast. If you enjoyed it, we always appreciate a subscribe, share, comment, or like. And don't forget, you can always find past episodes at abcpartners.com/podcast. This podcast is written, produced, edited, and hosted by Dave Almy. And theme music was composed by Scott Holmes.